Hello everyone, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku possesses Medusa's petrification power instead of One for All, and got Harem, part 1. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video, so let's begin the video. Izuku Midoriya stood in front of the mirror in his small apartment bathroom, staring at his own reflection with a mixture of fear and fascination. His green eyes, once bright and normal, now held an otherworldly quality. When he concentrated, he could see tiny flecks of gray swirling in his eyes like storm clouds gathering before rain. It had been 2 weeks since the incident. 2 weeks since everything changed. Most people received their quirks around age 4. Izuku had been part of the unlucky 20%, the quirkless minority that society often overlooked or pitied. He had spent 14 years watching his childhood friend Bakugo and countless others develop amazing abilities, while he remained painfully ordinary. Then puberty hit like a freight train, and with it came something that doctors could not explain. His mother Inko had noticed it first during breakfast one morning. She had been pouring orange juice when she glanced at Izuku and suddenly frozen, her hand trembling. The glass had slipped from her fingers, but instead of shattering on the floor, it stopped midair. Not floating. Frozen. Completely encased in gray stone that spread from the point where Izuku's gaze had landed. The doctors called it a late-blooming quirk, extremely rare but not unheard of. They called it petrification. They called it dangerous. Izuku called it terrifying. He pulled on the specialized glasses that the support department had rushed to create for him. They were made of a unique polymer that blocked his quirk's effects while still allowing him to see clearly. The frames were dark green to match his hair, and honestly, he thought they made him look a bit cool, though he would never admit that out loud. The day was the day. The UA entrance exam. Despite everything, despite the fear and the accidents and the 3 people he had accidentally turned to stone in the past 2 weeks, all of whom had been restored thanks to quick-thinking medical professionals, Izuku still dreamed of being a hero. His phone buzzed with a text from his mom. "Good luck, sweetie. Remember to keep your glasses on. I love you." Izuku smiled and texted back a quick thanks before grabbing his yellow backpack and heading out the door. The streets of Musatafu were crowded with students all heading toward UA Academy. Izuku could pick out the examinees easily. They all had that same nervous energy, that desperate hope radiating from them in waves. Some traveled in groups, already forming alliances. Others walked alone, psyching themselves up or reviewing notes. Izuku fell into the latter category, though not by choice. After middle school, after Bakugo's constant harassment and his own quirkless status had made him a social pariah, he had learned to be comfortable with solitude. The UA building loomed ahead, massive and impressive. All glass and steel and promise. Izuku took a deep breath, adjusted his glasses, and walked through the gates. The written exam had been challenging but manageable. Izuku had always excelled at analysis and strategy, filling notebooks upon notebooks with hero observations and quirk theories. That obsessive studying paid off as he worked through questions about hero law, quirk mechanics, and crisis response scenarios. It was the practical exam that had him sweating. President Mick's voice boomed through the assembly hall, explaining the rules. Examinees would be split into different battle centers where they would fight robots worth various points. Defeat robots, earn points, simple as that. Except nothing was simple when your quirk could permanently petrify anything you looked at. Izuku had spent the past 2 weeks training in secret, mostly in his room with objects his mother bought from thrift stores. He had learned a few crucial things. 1. He could control the intensity. A brief glance might only petrify surface level, while sustained eye contact could turn something completely to stone. 2. He could choose what to petrify by focusing his intent. 3. And most importantly, the petrification was reversible if he concentrated on undoing it within about 10 minutes. After that, it became permanent unless a restoration quirk user intervened. It was not much, but it was something. They were transported to Battle Center B. Izuku found himself standing among a crowd of nervous teenagers, all sizing each other up. A tall boy with engines in his calves was doing warm-up exercises. A girl with earphone jacks dangling from her earlobes was leaning against a wall, looking bored. A pink-skinned girl with small horns was bouncing excitedly, her golden eyes bright with anticipation. The buzzer sounded. For a moment, everyone froze. Then the tall boy with engines shot forward, and the crowd erupted into motion. Izuku ran, his mind racing faster than his feet. The first robot appeared around a corner, a one-pointer, small and boxy with simple movements. He pulled off his glasses, made direct eye contact, and concentrated. The effect was immediate and startling. Gray stone spread across the robot surface like ice crysting over a window, starting from its optical sensors and racing outward. Within 3 seconds, the entire machine was a statue. It toppled forward with a crash, shattering into pieces on impact. 1 point. Adrenaline surged through Izuku's veins. He put his glasses back on and kept moving. The battle center was chaos. Explosions echoed off buildings. Ice walls erupted from the ground. A boy with a tail was smashing robots with impressive martial arts moves. The pink girl from earlier was melting a two-pointer with some kind of acid quirk. Izuku used the confusion to his advantage, picking off robots that others had damaged or distracted. He learned quickly that he did not need to fully petrify them. A quick glance that turned their joints to stone was enough to immobilize them, letting gravity do the rest. 10 points. 15. 23. Then the ground shook. The zero-pointer emerged from between two buildings, a massive robot easily 20 meters tall. It was never meant to be fought, just avoided. A gimmick to test crisis response. Everyone ran. Everyone except Izuku, because he heard the scream. The pink girl had tripped, her ankle twisted at an ugly angle. She was directly in the zero-pointer's path, frozen in fear as the massive shadow fell over her. Izuku's body moved before his mind caught up. He sprinted toward her, legs burning, heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. This was insane. This was suicide. This was what heroes did. He reached her just as the robot's foot began to descend. Without thinking, he ripped off his glasses and looked up. Eye contact with a robot the size was different. It was not one target but dozens. Sensors, cameras, joints, pistons. Izuku's quirk reached out like a living thing, desperate and wild, fueled by fear and determination, and the absolute need to save this girl he did not even know. The petrification spread like wildfire. The robot's foot turned to stone, then its leg, then its entire lower body. The transformation raced upward, gray spreading across red metal, and the massive machine began to topple backward. Izuku grabbed the pink girl and dove to the side as the zero-pointer crashed to the ground, shattering into 1,000 pieces of stone and twisted metal. Silence fell over Battle Center B. Izuku lay on his back, chest heaving, glasses somewhere in the rubble. The girl was safe beside him, staring at him with wide golden eyes. Around them, other examinees had stopped to stare at the remains of the zero-pointer. Then Recovery Girl arrived with her medical robots, and everything became a blur of checkups and questions and exhaustion. Later, much later, Izuku sat in the infirmary with a juice box and a headache that felt like someone was driving nails through his skull. Overuse of his quirk, Recovery Girl had explained. He needed to build up his stamina. The pink girl, who introduced herself as Mina Ishido, sat beside him with her ankle wrapped. She had not stopped thanking him. "I thought I was done for," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "That thing was about to crush me and you just turned it to stone. That was the coolest thing I have ever seen." Izuku felt his face heat up. It was nothing, really. Any hero would have done the same. "But you did it," Mina insisted. She smiled at him, bright and genuine. "What is your name?" "Izuku Midoriya." "Well, Izuku Midoriya, I owe you one. Big time." As they waited for the exam results, Izuku could not shake the feeling that his life had just changed in ways he could not yet understand. He had saved someone. He had used his quirk, his terrifying, dangerous quirk, to be a hero. Maybe, just maybe, he could do this after all. 1 week later, a letter arrived. Izuku's hand shook as he opened it, his mother hovering anxiously behind him. A holographic projection of All Might appeared, smiling his trademark smile. "Young Midoriya," the #1 hero's voice boomed. "You have passed the entrance exam. But more than that, you have displayed the most important quality of a hero. You acted selflessly to save another, even at great risk to yourself. The rescue points you earned, combined with your villain points, place you 7th overall. Welcome to UA Academy." Inko burst into tears. Izuku just stared at the acceptance letter, hardly believing it was real. He was going to be a hero. The next few weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Izuku trained with his quirk daily, learning to maintain petrification for longer periods and to reverse it more quickly. He could now restore anything he turned to stone within 15 minutes instead of 10. It was progress, even if it felt painfully slow. He also went shopping with his mother for his school supplies and new clothes. Inko insisted he needed a whole new wardrobe, declaring that her baby was going to attend the most prestigious hero school in Japan and needed to look the part. They hit the mall on a Saturday afternoon. Izuku found himself trying on outfit after outfit while his mother offered commentary. The shopping trip was exhausting but oddly fun. He even ran into Mina Ishido in the food court, who was there with her own family. "Midoriya," Mina called out, waving enthusiastically. She bounded over, her pink skin seeming to glow under the mall's fluorescent lights. "Did you get in? Please tell me you got in." Izuku nodded, smiling. 7th place overall. Mina squealed and grabbed his hands. "That is amazing. We are going to be classmates. This is going to be so much fun." Her enthusiasm was infectious. By the time they parted ways, Izuku found himself genuinely excited for the first day of school instead of just nervous. The night before classes started, Izuku laid out his new UA uniform with meticulous care. The blazer, the tie, the special glasses that were even more advanced than his first pair. Everything was perfect. He looked at his reflection one more time, at the boy with green hair and gray flecked eyes, who was about to step into a whole new world. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Izuku Midoriya would begin his journey to becoming a hero. And though he did not know it yet, tomorrow he would also begin a journey that would bring unexpected connections, challenges that would test him in ways he never imagined, and relationships that would shape the person he would become. The morning sun rose over Musatafu, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. It was time. The UA entrance gates looked even more impressive on the first official day. Izuku stood outside for a moment, taking it all in. Students streamed past him, some familiar faces from the entrance exam, others completely new. The nervous energy from exam day had transformed into excited anticipation. He checked his phone one last time. A good luck message from his mother, complete with way too many emojis. He smiled and pocketed the device before walking through the gates. Class 1 was on the second floor. Izuku found the massive door easily enough, though he had to wonder why the doorway was so comically oversized. He took a deep breath, slid the door open, and stepped inside. The classroom erupted in noise and motion. Mina spotted him immediately and waved from the back of the room. "Sit with me," she called out. The boy with the engine legs, who Izuku now recognized as Tenya Ida, was lecturing someone about proper classroom behavior. A blonde boy with a black lightning bolt in his hair was already trying to flirt with a girl who had a ponytail and looked distinctly unimpressed. Izuku made his way to the empty seat next to Mina, nodding politely to the other students he passed. A boy with red and white hair divided perfectly down the middle glanced at him with mismatched eyes, one blue and one gray. A purple-haired boy who looked like he had not slept in days gave him an assessing look. As Izuku sat down, a girl walked into the classroom and for a moment, time seemed to slow. She had long dark hair tied in a ponytail, sharp intelligent eyes, and an air of confidence that commanded attention. She wore the UA uniform perfectly, and Izuku noticed several boys in the class straightening up as she passed. "That is Momo Yaoi Rozu," Mina whispered. She was recommended for admission. Super smart, super rich, and her quirk lets her create anything from her body, as long as she knows its molecular structure. Before Izuku could respond, the girl with the ponytail, Yaoi Rozu, took the seat directly in front of him. She turned slightly, offering a polite smile. "Good morning." Izuku felt his face heat up, but managed to stammer out a greeting. "Good morning." Any further conversation was cut off by the sound of the door opening again. A disheveled man in a yellow sleeping bag inched into the room like a caterpillar. The class fell silent, everyone staring in confusion and mild horror. The sleeping bag stopped at the front of the class. There was a long pause. Then a tired voice emerged from within. "It took you all 8 seconds to quiet down. Time is a precious resource. You're wasting it." The sleeping bag unzipped, revealing a man with long black hair, stubble, and eyes that looked like they had forgotten what sleep was. He pulled himself out and stood, looking over the class with an expression of profound exhaustion. "I am Shota Izawa, your homeroom teacher. Put these on and meet me at the training grounds." He pulled gym uniforms from seemingly nowhere and tossed them at the students. The locker rooms were predictably chaotic. The boys' side was full of chatter and showing off. A muscular blonde boy named Mashiro Ajiro was demonstrating martial arts moves with his tail. The blonde with the lightning bolt, Denki Kaminari, was trying to convince everyone that his electrification quirk was the coolest. Izuku changed quickly, keeping to himself. He was used to changing rooms from middle school, used to the way conversations would sometimes die when he approached. Old habits died hard. "Hey, Midoriya, right?" Izuku turned to find a boy with spiky red hair grinning at him. The boy's teeth were sharp, pointed, and his eyes were bright with enthusiasm. "I am Ijiro Kirishima. That thing you did at the entrance exam, turning that massive robot to stone, that was so manly. Your quirk is awesome." Izuku blinked, surprised by the genuine admiration. "Oh, thank you. Your quirk is hardening, right? I saw you during the exam. You were really impressive." Kirishima's grin somehow got wider. "You were watching? Man, that is so cool. We should train together sometime." Before Izuku could respond, Iida called out that it was time to head to the training grounds. The boys filed out, and Izuku found himself walking alongside Kirishima, who continued to chat enthusiastically about hero work and training. Maybe UA would be different from middle school after all. The training ground was a wide open space with various markings and equipment scattered around. The girls were already there, and Izuku tried very hard not to stare. The gym uniforms were form-fitting, and he was a teenage boy with functioning eyes. He settled for looking at the ground and adjusting his glasses. Izawa stood in the center, holding a small device. "Quirk assessment test," he announced without preamble. "You have been doing these since junior high, but you have never been allowed to use your quirks. Today we will see your true potential." The girl with brown hair and rosy cheeks raised her hand. "What about the entrance ceremony? The orientation?" Izawa's expression did not change. If you want to be heroes, you do not have time for frivolous events. A hero's work is never done. He pulled up the device, showing a list of standard fitness tests. 50-meter dash, grip strength, standing long jump, repeated side steps, bull throw, distance run, seated toe touches, sit-ups. You will perform each test using your quirks however you see fit. Whoever comes in last place across all tests will be judged to have no potential and will be expelled. The class erupted in protests. Izawa's eyes flashed red and his hair began to float. His scarf moved on its own, rising like a living thing. Instantly, everyone fell silent. If you think hero work is going to be easy, you are in the wrong school. Prove you belong here or pack your bags. The tension was thick enough to cut. Izuku felt his heart hammering. Expulsion on the first day. This was insane. This was terrifying. This was UA. Bakugo, Izawa called out. You finished first in the entrance exam. Demonstrate the ball throw. The blonde boy Izuku had been deliberately avoiding pushed forward. Kitsuki Bakugo looked exactly the same as he had in middle school. Spiky blonde hair, sharp red eyes, an expression of perpetual anger. Izuku's childhood friend turned tormentor. Bakugo grabbed the ball, his face splitting into a feral grin. Die, he screamed, and an explosion erupted from his palm, launching the ball into the stratosphere. The device in Izawa's hand beeped. 705 meters. The class erupted in amazement. That was only with his quirk, someone said. This is going to be so much fun, another added. Fun? Izawa repeated, his voice flat. You think this is fun? His expression darkened. You have 3 years to become heroes. Will you have an attitude like that the entire time? Alright then. New rule. Whoever finishes last will definitely be expelled. The excitement died instantly, replaced with grim determination. The tests began in earnest. Izuku watched his classmates showcase incredible abilities. Yaoi Rozu created springs for her feet for the long jump. A girl with frog-like features named Tsuyu Asui used her powerful legs and tongue to excel at multiple events. The boy with red and white hair, Todoroki, created ice that let him glide effortlessly. When it was Izuku's turn for the 50-meter dash, he faced a problem. His quirk was not built for speed. He ran as fast as he could without quirk assistance, finishing with an unremarkable time. The grip strength test was similar. Petrification did not enhance physical strength. He scored average at best. As the tests continued, Izuku felt a familiar sinking feeling. He was falling behind. His quirk was powerful in combat, devastating even, but these tests did not play to his strengths. Then came the ball throw. Izuku stood in the circle, holding the softball and staring at the open sky. He had one chance to prove himself here. One chance to show that his quirk had value beyond turning things to stone. An idea formed. It was risky and untested, but it might work. He threw the ball as hard as he could. The moment it left his hand, he ripped off his glasses and locked his gaze on it. Petrify. But not completely. Just the outer layer. Just enough to add weight and momentum without making it too heavy to maintain velocity. The ball sailed through the air, its surface turning gray. Then, at the peak of its arc, Izuku released the petrification. The stone shell crumbled away, and the ball continued forward with the added momentum from the brief increase in weight. The device beeped. 432 meters. Not the best score, but respectable. More importantly, it proved his quirk could be used creatively. Izawa gave him a look that might have been approval. Interesting application. The tests continued. Izuku performed adequately in most, though he knew he was far from the top. The final rankings appeared on Izawa's device. First place went to Yaoi Rozu, whose quirk was incredibly versatile. Todoroki came second. Bakugo third. Izuku found himself in 15th place. Not great, but not last. Last place went to a small boy with purple balls growing from his head who had frozen up during several tests. Izawa looked at the rankings, then at the class. I lied, he said flatly. No one is getting expelled. It was a logical ruse to bring out your full potential. The purple bald boy collapsed in relief. Several students shouted in protest. Yaoi Rozu simply sighed, looking unsurprised. That is all for today, Izawa continued. Review the syllabus in the classroom. Dismissed. As the class filed back toward the school building, Mina bounced up beside Izuku. 15th place is not bad, she said encouragingly. And that trick with the ball was really creative. Thanks, Izuku replied. You did great too. 8th place with your acid is impressive. Mina beamed. We should celebrate surviving day 1. Want to grab food after school? There is a good ramen place near the station. Before Izuku could answer, Yaoi Rozu appeared on his other side. Excuse me, Midoriya, was it? I wanted to ask about your quirk. The petrification effect, is it permanent? Izuku blinked, startled that she knew his name and was asking about his quirk. No, not if I reverse it within about 15 minutes. After that it becomes much harder. Fascinating, Yaoi Rozu said, her eyes bright with curiosity. The applications for rescue work and villain containment are substantial. Have you considered how it might interact with different materials? Before Izuku could formulate a response, Bakugo's voice cut through the air like a knife. Deku. Izuku froze. That nickname. He hated that nickname. Bakugo pushed through the crowd, his red eyes blazing. When the hell did you get a quirk? You were supposed to be quirkless. The crowd around them grew quiet, sensing tension. Izuku forced himself to meet Bakugo's glare. It manifested late. Sometimes that happens. Bullshit, Bakugo snarled. You are hiding something. There is no way a late bloomer quirk would be that strong. Izawa's voice cut through the confrontation. Bakugo, Midoriya, save your rivalry for training. Move along. Bakugo shot Izuku one more murderous glare before stalking off. The crowd dispersed, whispers following in their wake. What was that about? Mina asked, concerned. Izuku shook his head. Old history. Do not worry about it. But he was worrying about it. Bakugo's hostility, the attention from classmates, the pressure to perform. UA was everything he had dreamed of, but it was also overwhelming in ways he had not anticipated. That afternoon, Izuku found himself at the ramen shop with Mina, Kirishima, who had invited himself along, and surprisingly, Yaoi Rozu, who expressed interest in discussing quirk theory. The shop was small and cozy, filled with the rich smell of broth and noodles. They squeezed into a booth, and Izuku found himself sitting across from Yaoi Rozu, while Mina and Kirishima argued about the best ramen toppings. Your quirk really is fascinating, Yaoi Rozu said, stirring her tea thoughtfully. The ability to alter matter at such a fundamental level. Have you tested its limits? What is the largest object you have fully petrified? A 0-pointer at the entrance exam, Izuku admitted. But I was running on adrenaline and fear. I have not been able to do anything that large since. Yaoi Rozu nodded thoughtfully. Quirks often respond to emotional states, especially newly manifested ones. With training, you should be able to replicate that output consciously. They talked for over an hour, discussing quirk mechanics, hero tactics, and their hopes for UA. Mina and Kirishima eventually joined the conversation, and Izuku found himself relaxing, laughing at Kirishima's terrible jokes and Mina's dramatic reenactments of their classmates. By the time they left the restaurant, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Izuku walked to the station with his new friends, feeling something he had not felt in years. He felt like he belonged. At home, Inko had dinner waiting. She asked about his day, and Izuku told her everything, from Izawa's brutal assessment to the new friends he had made. His mother beamed with pride, declaring that she knew her baby would do wonderfully. Later, in his room, Izuku sat at his desk and opened his hero analysis notebook. He had 13 of them now, all filled with observations about pro heroes. He started a new one, labeled UA Class 1A. He began with Yaoi Rozu, noting her quirk's versatility and her sharp strategic mind. Then Mina, whose acid had variable corrosiveness and who was far more perceptive than she let on. Kirishima with his hardening and unshakable optimism. Todoroki with his ice that seemed almost limitless. He would study them all, learn from them, grow alongside them. Izuku Midoriya was going to be a hero. And he was not going to do it alone. Outside his window, the city lights of Musatafu twinkled like stars. Somewhere in that vast urban sprawl, his classmates were probably doing the same thing he was. Preparing, training, dreaming. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow would bring more chances to prove himself. Tomorrow, his real journey would continue. But tonight, Izuku allowed himself to simply be grateful. Grateful for a quirk that, while terrifying, gave him a chance. Grateful for a school that saw his potential. Grateful for friends who saw him as an equal. He closed his notebook and looked at his reflection in the darkened window. The boy with green hair and gray-flecked eyes looked back, and for the first time in a long time, Izuku liked what he saw. He was enough. He had always been enough. And now, he finally had the chance to prove it. Number Chapter 3. Training and Connections. The second day at UA started with what Izawa called foundational hero training, which apparently meant getting beaten up by your classmates in the name of education. Izuku sat in homeroom, listening to his teacher explain the day's schedule, while trying not to fall asleep. Apparently, Izawa's exhausted demeanor was contagious. Today you will have 3 classes, Izawa droned, his eyes somehow looking even more tired than yesterday. Modern hero art history with Midnight, foundational hero studies with All Might, and combat training with me. Try not to destroy school property. The mention of All Might sent excited whispers through the classroom. Izuku felt his own heart rate spike. All Might, the #1 hero, was going to teach them. This was actually happening. Midnight's class was an experience. The R-rated hero swept into the classroom wearing her incredibly revealing costume, which caused several boys to blush furiously and Izawa to sigh heavily from where he had decided to nap in the corner inside his sleeping bag. Heroes, Midnight began, her voice sultry and commanding, are not just fighters. We are symbols. We are icons. We are, in many ways, performers. Today we discuss the evolution of hero imagery and public perception. What followed was actually a fascinating lecture about how hero costumes and personas had changed over the decades, from the simple suits of the early quirk era to the elaborate designs of modern heroes. Midnight showed clips of famous heroes throughout history, analyzing their visual presentation and public image. Your costume is your brand, she explained, clicking through a slideshow. It tells the world who you are before you ever throw a punch. So when you submit your costume designs, think carefully about what message you want to send. Izuku furiously took notes, his mind already spinning with ideas for his own costume. Something that worked with his quirk, something that looked heroic but not too flashy, something with excellent eye protection since that was literally his most important feature. After class, as students filed out, Yaoi Rozu approached his desk. Midoriya, have you given thought to your hero name yet? Izuku looked up, surprised. A little bit. I was thinking something related to stone or petrification, but everything I come up with sounds either too scary or too silly. Yaoi Rozu smiled, and Izuku noticed it made her whole face light up. I have the same problem. Creation is versatile but not particularly catchy. Perhaps we could workshop ideas together sometime. I would like that, Izuku said, and meant it. Mina appeared, slinging an arm around Izuku's shoulders. Are you two nerding out about hero names already? Because I have the perfect name picked out. Alien Queen. Cool, right? The name suits you, Yaoi Rozu said diplomatically. The pink coloration and horns do give you an otherworldly appearance. Exactly, Mina beamed. What about you, Yamomo? Can I call you Yamomo? I am calling you Yamomo. Yaoi Rozu blinked at the sudden nickname but did not protest. I suppose that is acceptable. As for my hero name, I am considering Creati, but I am open to suggestions. The three of them walked together toward the next class, debating hero names and costume designs. Izuku found himself relaxing into the conversation, offering suggestions and receiving feedback. It felt natural and easy in a way socializing had never felt before. The door to the Foundational Hero Studies classroom burst open with enough force to make everyone jump. All Might stood in the doorway, his massive frame filling the space, his smile bright enough to light up the room. I am here, he declared in his booming voice, coming through the door like a normal person. The class erupted in excited chatter. All Might, the symbol of peace, was actually going to teach them. Izuku felt like his heart might explode from sheer excitement. All Might strode to the front of the classroom, his cape billowing dramatically despite the lack of wind. Today's lesson is battle training. And to help you look the part, you will be wearing these. He pressed a button, and panels in the wall slid open, revealing numbered cases. Each one contained a costume design based on the specifications students had submitted before the school year started. That changed and meet me at training ground beta, All Might commanded. It is time to see what you are made of. The locker room was chaos. Everyone was eager to see their costumes, to transform from students into heroes. Izuku opened his case with trembling hands. His costume was primarily dark green, made from a flexible material that allowed for easy movement. The most important feature was the specialized visor that replaced his glasses. It was sleek and angular, covering his eyes with a darkened lens that would block his quirk while still allowing him perfect vision. The visor could be lifted with a quick motion, allowing him to use his petrification when needed. The rest of the costume was practical. Reinforced boots for better traction, gloves with grip pads, and a utility belt that currently held nothing but had room for future support items. On the back was a small cape, deep green like his hair, that fell to just below his shoulders. Hiroshima whistled from the next locker. Looking good, Midoriya. Very heroic. Thanks, Izuku said, adjusting the visor. Your costume looks great too. Hiroshima's costume was simple but effective. Dark red and black, with gear-shaped shoulder pads and a mask that made him look fierce. It suited him perfectly. They made their way to training ground beta, joining the growing crowd of costume students. Izuku looked around in awe at the transformation. Everyone looked like real heroes now. Yaoi Rozu's costume was striking, a red and white outfit that left her arms and legs mostly bare for easier creation of items. She looked confident and capable, every inch the hero she was training to become. When she noticed Izuku looking, she gave him a small wave. Mina bounced over, her costume consisting of a purple and turquoise bodysuit with a furry purple vest. She looked like she had just stepped out of an anime. Your visor is so cool, she gushed. Very mysterious hero vibes. Before Izuku could respond, All Might's voice boomed across the training ground. Everyone, gather round. Today you will be split into villain and hero teams for indoor combat training. Heroes will try to capture the villains or secure a weapon. Villains will try to protect the weapon or capture the heroes. Understood? The class chorused their understanding. All Might pulled out a box and began drawing lots to determine teams. Izuku found himself paired with a quiet girl with long green hair and large eyes named Tsuyu Asui, who insisted everyone call her Tsu. Their opponents would be Bakugo and a girl with short brown hair and a constant smile named Ichako Uraraka. Izuku felt his stomach drop. Of course he would be matched against Bakugo. Of course. The building they were assigned was a mock urban structure, 4 stories tall with multiple rooms and corridors. Izuku and Tsuyu were the heroes, which meant they had to locate and secure the weapon that Bakugo and Uraraka would be guarding somewhere inside. "We have 15 minutes to plan," Tsuyu said, her voice surprisingly calm. "Ribbit. Your quirk can petrify anything you look at, right? And explosions are a bad match against stone. We might have an advantage." Izuku nodded, trying to focus on strategy instead of his history with Bakugo. "Uraraka's quirk is zero gravity. She can make objects weightless by touching them. We need to be careful about debris and surprise attacks from above." They spent the remaining planning time working out basic tactics. Tsuyu's frog quirk gave her excellent mobility, and her tongue could be used to grab or restrain opponents from a distance. Izuku would focus on petrifying obstacles and, if necessary, temporarily immobilizing opponents. When the buzzer sounded to start the exercise, they entered the building cautiously. The first floor was clear, just empty rooms and corridors. The second floor showed signs of deliberate destruction. Bakugo's work, Izuku noted. He was always one for the direct approach. The explosion came without warning. Bakugo burst through a wall, his hand outstretched, his face twisted in fury. "Die, Deku," he screamed, and an explosion erupted from his palm. Tsuyu grabbed Izuku with her tongue and yanked him backward just in time. The explosion tore through the space where he had been standing, leaving scorch marks on the walls. "Hero, Bakugo seems really angry at you," Tsuyu observed with remarkable calm as they retreated down the hallway. "Old classmates," Izuku explained, breathing hard. "He really does not like me." Another explosion, this one closer. Bakugo was not holding back at all. Through the smoke, Izuku could see his childhood friend's silhouette, hand raised for another blast. In the observation room, the rest of Class 1 watched on monitors. All Might stood at the front, his expression serious. "Young Bakugo is letting his emotions control him," he noted. "That is a dangerous habit for a hero." On screen, Izuku made a decision. He turned to face Bakugo, lifted his visor, and made direct eye contact. The petrification spread rapidly across the floor between them, creating a wall of stone that absorbed Bakugo's next explosion. "Stop running, Deku," Bakugo snarled. "Fight me for real." "This is not about us," Izuku called back. "This is a training exercise. We are supposed to be learning." "Do not lecture me," Bakugo roared. "You were quirkless. You were nothing. How dare you suddenly show up with a quirk and act like you belong here?" The word stung, but Izuku pushed the hurt aside. He had a mission to complete. He nodded to Tsuyu, and they moved, splitting up to flank around Bakugo's position. That was when Uraraka made her move. She had been hiding in one of the rooms, and as Izuku passed by, she lunged out, her fingers barely missing his arm. If she had touched him, he would have become weightless, an easy target. "Sorry," she said, smiling apologetically even as she tried to tag him again. "Orders from my partner." Izuku dodged, using his analysis of her movements to predict her attacks. Uraraka was fast and creative, using her quirk on pieces of debris to create floating obstacles. But she was also kind, Izuku realized. She was trying to win without actually hurting him. Behind them, Bakugo's explosions continued to echo through the building. Tsuyu engaged him, using her mobility to keep him distracted and angry. Izuku found himself in a strange dance with Uraraka. She would reach for him, he would dodge, she would smile and try again. There was something almost playful about it despite the competitive nature of the exercise. "You are really good at this," Uraraka said after a particularly close call. "How do you keep predicting where I am going to move?" "Pattern recognition," Izuku replied, ducking under a floating piece of rubble. "You favor your right side and you tend to jump before using your quirk for maximum effect." Uraraka's eyes widened. "You figured that out just from fighting me for a few minutes. That is amazing." On the 4th floor, Tsuyu had led Bakugo away from the weapon room. Now it was just Izuku and Uraraka, and between them was the door to their objective. "I have to stop you," Uraraka said, her expression determined. "Bakugo is really counting on me." "I know," Izuku replied. "But I have to get through." They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Uraraka moved, faster than before, her hand reaching for the wall. She touched it, made it weightless, and with a powerful kick, sent the entire section of wall floating toward Izuku. It was creative and unexpected. Izuku lifted his visor and locked eyes with the floating debris. Petrification spread across its surface, and the stone wall crashed to the ground, now too heavy for Uraraka's quirk to affect. But the distraction had given Uraraka time to get close. Her fingers brushed Izuku's arm, and suddenly the world tilted. He was weightless, floating upward with nothing to anchor him. Uraraka smiled apologetically. Sorry, but I win. Not yet, Izuku said. He twisted in midair, oriented himself toward the ceiling, and locked eyes with it. Petrification spread across the surface, and then he released it. The brief moment of the ceiling returning to normal gave him something to push off of mentally, and he used his quirk on his own boots, increasing their weight momentarily to pull himself down. He landed hard but controlled, rolled, and came up running toward the weapon room door. Uraraka's eyes were wide with surprise. That was incredible, she breathed. But I still cannot let you pass. She made herself weightless and launched herself at him like a missile. Izuku dropped to the ground, and Uraraka sailed over him, unable to change direction mid-flight. He reached the door, slammed it open, and tagged the fake weapon. The buzzer sounded. Hero team wins. In the observation room, the class erupted in commentary. That was so intense, Mina shouted. Did you see that ceiling trick? That was genius. Young Midoriya showed excellent tactical thinking, All Might declared. And young Uraraka demonstrated remarkable creativity with her quirk. Both teams performed admirably. All except young Bakugo, he added, his voice stern. His inability to control his emotions and his excessive force were unbecoming of a hero. He needs to learn that power without control is simply destruction. Back in the training building, Izuku helped Uraraka to her feet. That was an amazing fight, he said sincerely. Your quirk is incredibly versatile. Uraraka beamed at him, her cheeks turning slightly pink. Thanks. Your quirk is super cool too. The way you used it on the ceiling, I have never seen anything like that. Tsuyu hopped over, Bakugo following behind her with a thunderous expression. Good work, Midoriya, Tsuyu said. Ribbit. We made a good team. Bakugo said nothing, just glared at Izuku with an intensity that promised future confrontations. Then he stalked off toward the exit. The rest of the battle training continued with other teams. Izuku watched from the observation room, taking notes on everyone's quirks and fighting styles. Yaoi Rozu and Todoroki worked together with frightening efficiency, Yaoi Rozu creating insulated equipment to counter Todoroki's ice. Kirishima and Mina made a surprisingly good team, Kirishima's defense complementing Mina's offense perfectly. After class, as everyone changed back into their school uniforms, Uraraka caught up with Izuku. Hey, Deku, right. That is what Bakugo called you. Izuku winced. That is more of an insult than a nickname. My actual name is Izuku Midoriya. Oh, Uraraka's face fell. I am so sorry. I thought it was cute, like the word for never giving up. Can I still call you Deku? But in the good way. Izuku blinked, processing this. No one had ever put a positive spin on that nickname before. I suppose that would be okay. Uraraka's smile returned, brighter than before. Great. I am Ichako Uraraka. Let's be friends, Deku. And just like that, Izuku had made another friend. It was strange how easily it was happening at UA, how different everything was from middle school. Maybe it was because everyone here had their own quirks and their own struggles. Maybe it was because they were all working toward the same goal. Or maybe, Izuku thought, he had just finally found people who saw him instead of his quirkless past. The lunch period found Izuku in the cafeteria with an ever-growing group. Mina and Kirishima had become constants, with Tsuyu joining them today along with Uraraka. Yaoi Rozu had also sat with them, citing interest in continuing their quirk discussion from earlier. The cafeteria food was prepared by the Hero Lunch Rush, and it was remarkably good. Izuku had gotten katsu curry and was happily eating while half listening to Kirishima tell an animated story about a pro hero he had met once. Your fight today was really manly, Kirishima said, turning to Izuku. The way you kept calm even with Bakugo going crazy, that took guts. Bakugo has always been intense, Izuku said diplomatically. We have known each other since we were kids. He seems like he has some anger issues, Mina noted. Like, serious ones. Does he hate you specifically or is he like that with everyone? Mostly me, Izuku admitted. When we were younger, I was quirkless and he had an amazing quirk. I think my suddenly having a quirk threw off his worldview. That is rough, Uraraka said sympathetically. But you are an amazing hero in training. He is just going to have to accept that. Ribbit, you handled yourself well, Tsuyu added. Your analytical skills are impressive. You figured out Uraraka's patterns very quickly. Izuku felt his face heat up at the praise. I just pay attention to details. Anyone could do it. No, Yaoi Rozu interjected. Pattern recognition and analytical thinking under pressure are genuine skills. You should be proud of your abilities, Midoriya. The conversation shifted to costume designs and quirk theorizing. Yaoi Rozu pulled out a notebook, revealing that she too kept detailed analyses of hero strategies and quirk applications. She and Izuku quickly fell into an intense discussion about optimization and efficiency that left the others amused and slightly confused. You two are like twin nerds, Mina laughed. It is actually kind of adorable. Before Izuku could sputter a response to that, a commotion at the front of the cafeteria caught everyone's attention. A group of upperclassmen had surrounded someone, and voices were being raised. That is a third-year student, Yaoi Rozu said, her brow furrowed. And those appear to be general education students. I wonder what the conflict is about. Should we do something? Kirishima asked, already half standing. Sai's tongue shot out, stopping him. Ribbit. We are first years. Getting involved in upperclassmen conflicts could make things worse. But the situation was already resolving itself. A teacher appeared, dispersed the crowd, and the cafeteria returned to normal. Drama on day 2, Mina said cheerfully. UA is never boring. The afternoon brought as always combat training, which turned out to be less combat and more learning how to fall without injuring yourself. They spent 2 hours practicing break rolls, and basic defensive positioning. Heroes get thrown around a lot, as Awa explained in his monotone voice. If you do not know how to fall properly, you will spend more time in the hospital than on patrol. It was grueling and repetitive, but Izuku could see the value. He paired with Kirishima for the exercises, and they took turns throwing each other onto mats. Kirishima's hardening meant he did not really need to practice falling, but he did so anyway with his typical enthusiasm. Across the gym, Bakugo was paired with Todoroki. The 2 strongest students in the class based on the quirk assessment test. They moved through the exercises with mechanical efficiency, barely speaking to each other. Near them, Yaoi Rozu was paired with a tall girl with long black hair tied in a spiky ponytail. Izuku recognized her as Itsuka Kendo from Class 1B, who must have been brought in since their class had an odd number of students today. After training, exhausted and sore, the class finally ended. As students filed out, Aizawa called out. Midoriya stayed behind for a moment. Izuku's heart jumped. Had he done something wrong? He approached the teacher nervously. Aizawa studied him with those perpetually tired eyes. Your quirk is powerful but dangerous. Have you considered the psychological implications of turning living beings to stone? Izuku swallowed hard. I have, sensei. I know it is terrifying. That is why I am so careful with it. Good, Aizawa nodded. Fear of your own power can be healthy. It means you respect it. But do not let that fear paralyze you. In a real crisis, hesitation can cost lives. He pulled out a small card and handed it to Izuku. This is a contact for a support engineer who specializes in quirk-enhancing gear. Your visor is good, but you will need more. Support items that let you use your quirk more precisely, more safely. Think about what you need and contact her. Thank you, sensei, Izuku said, clutching the card. Aizawa waved him off. Go home. Rest. Tomorrow will be harder. Outside, Mina was waiting for him, leaning against the wall with Uraraka and Sai. We figured you might want company walking to the station, Mina said. Safety in numbers and all that. The 4 of them walked together through the UA campus as the sun began to set. Students were everywhere, some heading home, others toward the dorms that upperclassmen could live in, still others to various after-school activities. So, Uraraka said, bouncing slightly as she walked. What does everyone want to do this weekend? We should hang out outside of school. I am down for whatever, Mina said immediately. Shopping. Arcade. Karaoke. There is a new hero exhibit at the museum, Sayu suggested. Ribbit. It covers the history of Quirk Society. That sounds educational and fun, Uraraka agreed. What about you, Deku? Izuku blinked, surprised to be included. I would like that. I have actually been wanting to see that exhibit. It is settled then, Mina declared. Saturday, we hit the museum. And maybe karaoke after because I need to hear what all of your singing voices sound like. They reached the station and split up, heading to different train lines. Izuku found himself on the same platform as Yaoi Rozu, who apparently lived in the same general direction. The day was intense, she commented as they waited for the train. But productive. I feel like I learned a great deal. Me too, Izuku agreed. Your fight during battle training was incredible, by the way. The way you created those insulated gloves on the fly was genius. Thank you, Yaoi Rozu smiled. Your tactical thinking impressed me as well. Not many people would have thought to use petrification on the ceiling as a leverage point. The train arrived, and they boarded together, finding seats near the back. The car was fairly empty, just a few business people heading home, and some students from other schools. Midoriya, can I ask you something personal? Yaoi Rozu said after a moment of silence. Of course. Their quirk manifestation, it was recent, correct? How are you handling the psychological adjustment? I imagine going from quirkless to having such a powerful ability must be overwhelming. Izuku was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. It is overwhelming, he admitted. Sometimes I am terrified I am going to lose control and hurt someone. But I am also grateful. For years, I thought I would never be a hero. This quirk, as scary as it is, gave me a chance. That is a very mature perspective, Yaoi Rozu said softly. For what it is worth, I think you will make an excellent hero. Your cautious approach to your quirk shows wisdom beyond your years. Thank you, Izuku felt his face heating up again. That means a lot coming from you. They rode in comfortable silence for a few stops. Then Yayoi Rozu spoke again. I was recommended for admission to UA. My family has high expectations for me. Sometimes the pressure is intense. Izuku looked at her, seeing past the confident exterior to the uncertainty beneath. I think you are doing amazing. You came first in the quirk assessment test. Your fight today was flawless. Anyone would be proud to have you as a classmate. Yayoi Rozu's smile was grateful and genuine. Thank you, Midoriya. I appreciate that more than you know. Her stop came before his. As she stood to leave, she turned back. I am glad we are friends. Me too, Izuku said, and meant it with his whole heart. The rest of the ride home, Izuku thought about the day. 2 days into UA and he had made more friends than he had in all of middle school. People saw him, really saw him, not as quirkless Deku, but as Izuku Midoriya, hero in training. His phone buzzed with messages. A group chat had been created, labeled Class 1 Crew. Mina had added him along with Kirishima, Uraraka, Tsuyu, and surprisingly, Yayoi Rozu. The chat was already blowing up with memes and jokes about the day's training. Izuku smiled and added his own comment about Kirishima's terrible landing form, which earned him a string of laughing emojis and an indignant voice message from Kirishima himself. At home, his mother had dinner ready and a million questions about his day. Izuku told her everything, from All Might's class to the fight with Bakugo to the new friends he was making. Inko's eyes teared up with happiness, declaring that her baby was finally getting the recognition he deserved. After dinner, Izuku retreated to his room to study. He had homework from Midnight's class, an essay about personal hero branding, and he wanted to start working on ideas for support items based on Izawa's suggestion. But first, he opened his hero analysis notebook and added detailed entries for his classmates. Uraraka's zero gravity and how she used it creatively in combat. Tsuyu's frog abilities and her calm analytical approach. Yayoi Rozu's creation and her tactical brilliance. He found himself writing more about Yayoi Rozu than the others. Her quirk was fascinating, but more than that, there was something about her that drew his attention. The way she carried herself with confidence but showed vulnerability when appropriate. Her genuine interest in quirk theory and hero work. The kindness in her eyes when she looked at him. Izuku shook his head, closing the notebook. He was overthinking things. They were classmates and friends. That was all. His phone buzzed again. A private message from Yayoi Rozu. Thank you for the conversation today. I needed that. Looking forward to our study session tomorrow. Izuku smiled and typed back a response. Looking forward to it too. He set his phone aside and looked out his window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, villains were planning crimes. Heroes were patrolling streets. The world was continuing to turn. And Izuku Midoriya, the boy with the petrifying gaze, was one step closer to his dream. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow he would train harder, study more, push himself further. Tomorrow he would continue proving that he belonged at UA, that he deserved to be a hero. But tonight, he allowed himself to simply be happy. Happy with his progress, happy with his friends, happy with the path his life was taking. A stone gaze hero was being born, one day at a time. And nothing was going to stop him. Saturday morning arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not too hot, with a gentle breeze that made the city feel alive. Izuku stood outside the Musatafu Central Museum, checking his phone for the third time in as many minutes. The group chat had confirmed everyone was coming, but he was still the first to arrive. He had agonized over what to wear for longer than he cared to admit. Eventually settling on dark jeans, a green hoodie, and his ever-present specialized glasses. Casual but presentable. His mother had taken one look at him before he left and smiled knowingly, which made him blush furiously. Deku, a cheerful voice called out. Izuku turned to see Uraraka jogging toward him, waving enthusiastically. She wore a pink sundress and white cardigan, her hair pulled back with a small clip. Sorry, I am a bit late. The train was packed. You are not late at all, Izuku assured her. I just got here early. That makes two of us then, Yayoi Rozu's voice came from behind them. She approached with her typical grace, dressed in an elegant but casual outfit of white pants and a red blouse. Her hair was styled differently than at school, flowing freely rather than in her usual ponytail. Good morning. Good morning, Izuku and Uraraka chorused. Izuku tried very hard not to stare. Yayoi Rozu always looked put together at school, but seeing her in casual clothes was somehow even more striking. Yo, nerds, Mina's voice rang out as she bounded up the museum steps. She wore a vibrant purple crop top and ripped jeans, her pink skin and yellow eyes, making her stand out even more than usual. Ready to learn some boring history and then do something actually fun. The history is not boring, Tsuyu said, appearing beside Mina with her characteristic calm. Ribbit. Understanding the past helps us build a better future. She wore a simple green dress that complemented her features perfectly. You would say that, Tsu, Mina laughed, slinging an arm around the taller girl. That is why we love you though. You keep us grounded. The group entered the museum together, paying for their tickets at the front desk. The building was impressive, with high ceilings and marble floors that echoed with footsteps. Signs pointed toward various exhibits, but they were here for the newest one, Quirk Evolution. From first generation to now. The exhibit was comprehensive and fascinating. It started with the emergence of the first quirked individual, the glowing baby born in China, and traced the social upheaval that followed as more and more people developed abilities. Photos, videos, and interactive displays showed how society adapted, how laws changed, how heroes emerged from the chaos. Izuku was in heaven. He stopped at every display, reading every placard, absorbing information like a sponge. Aoi Rozu stayed close to him, equally engaged, and they found themselves discussing the implications of various historical events. The regulation of quirk usage in public spaces was a fascinating legal challenge, Yaoi Rozu commented as they examined a display about early quirk laws. Individual freedom versus public safety. The balance is still being negotiated today. Exactly, Izuku agreed enthusiastically. And the economic impact was huge. Entire industries became obsolete while new ones emerged. Construction, transportation, medicine, everything changed. You two are like walking encyclopedias, Uraraka said, appearing beside them with Mina and Tsuyu in tow. It is actually really cool how much you know. Hero nerds unite, Mina declared, striking a dramatic pose. But seriously, some of this stuff is wild. Did you know that the first pro heroes were not even called heroes? They were called vigilantes, and most of them were arrested. The distinction between vigilante and hero is still important today, Tsuyu added. Ribbit. Unlicensed quirk usage for combat purposes is illegal. That is why we need to get our provisional licenses. They moved through the exhibit, alternating between serious discussion and lighthearted banter. Mina kept trying to make them take silly photos with the displays, Uraraka found the interactive sections fascinating, and Tsuyu asked thoughtful questions that made Izuku think about things from new angles. One section focused on famous hero-villain conflicts throughout history. All Might featured prominently, his battles with various villains documented in detailed dioramas and video presentations. There was also a section on the greatest villain of the modern era, All for One, though information about him was sparse and shrouded in mystery. All for One was supposedly defeated years ago, Yaoi Rozu said quietly as they examined the display. But no body was ever recovered. Some people think he is still out there. That is a scary thought, Uraraka shivered. A villain that powerful, with a quirk that lets him steal and give quirks to others. It sounds like something from a horror movie. Ribbit, All Might defeated him once, Tsuyu said with confidence. If he returned, All Might would stop him again. Izuku was not so sure. The display mentioned that All Might had been injured in that final battle, injured severely enough that he had reduced his hero activities for a period. What if the symbol of peace was not as invincible as everyone believed? He shook off the dark thoughts. Today was supposed to be fun, not worrying about ancient villains. The exhibit concluded with a section on the future of hero society, speculation about how quirks would continue to evolve and what that meant for the next generation. There were quotes from current pro heroes about their hopes and concerns for the future. One quote from All Might stood out to Izuku. The next generation of heroes will face challenges we cannot imagine. But I have faith in them. They are learning not just to be strong, but to be wise. That wisdom will light the way forward. Heavy words from the number one, Mina commented. No pressure on us or anything. They exited the exhibit into the museum's cafe, ordering drinks and finding a table by the windows. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, school gossip and upcoming assignments. So, Mina said with a mischievous glint in her eyes. Anyone got their eye on someone special in class? It has been almost a week. Time for crushes to develop. Uraraka choked on her tea. Mina, you cannot just ask that. Why not? We are friends. Friends talk about this stuff. Ribbit, some of us prefer to keep our personal feelings private, Tsuyu said, but even she looked slightly interested in the topic. Yaoi Rozu's cheeks had gone slightly pink. I think it is far too early to discuss romantic attachments. We have only just met. But that is when crushes happen, Mina insisted. Love at first sight and all that jazz. Come on, somebody give me something. I am dying of curiosity here. Well, Uraraka said slowly, her face turning red. I think Iida is kind of interesting. He is so serious and proper. It is kind of endearing. Mina squealed. I knew it. You have a thing for the class rep type. I can work with this. What about you, Mina? Izuku asked, trying to deflect attention from poor Uraraka. Anyone catch your eye? Maybe, Mina said with a sly smile. But I am not telling yet. A girl has to have some mysteries. What about you, Midoriya? Anyone making your heart go doki doki? Izuku felt his face burst into flames. I mean, everyone in our class is great. I have not really thought about it. That is a total lie, Mina declared. You are blushing so hard right now. Come on, spill. Leave him alone, Mina, Yaoi Rozu interjected, though her voice was soft. Not everyone is comfortable discussing such matters openly. Fine, fine, Mina relented. But mark my words, by the end of the semester, I am setting up at least 3 couples in our class. It is my mission. You are ridiculous, Sayu said, but she was smiling. They spent another hour in the cafe, just talking and laughing. Izuku found himself relaxing completely, the nervous energy that usually plagued him in social situations fading away. These people genuinely liked him. They wanted him here. It was a feeling he was still getting used to. Alright, Mina declared, standing and stretching. Museum time is over. Now we hit the arcade and I destroy all of you at every game. You are very confident, Yaoi Rozu noted with an amused smile. That is because I am very good. The arcade was 3 blocks away, a massive multi-story entertainment complex filled with games, prizes, and overstimulated children. The group plunged into the chaos with enthusiasm. Mina immediately challenged Uraraka to a racing game, which devolved into both of them screaming at the screen and each other, while their cars crashed repeatedly. Sayu dominated a rhythm game with her naturally quick reflexes, her expression never changing from calm focus, even as her score climbed higher and higher. Izuku found himself at a claw machine, trying and failing to grab a limited edition All Might figurine. After his 5th failed attempt, Yaoi Rozu appeared beside him. Those machines are designed to be nearly impossible, she said. The claw strength is calibrated to ensure a low win rate. I know, Izuku sighed. But that figurine is from All Might's debut year. It is really rare. Yaoi Rozu studied the machine for a moment, then pulled out some coins. May I try? Sure. She inserted the money, maneuvered the claw with careful precision, and on her first attempt, grabbed the figurine perfectly. It dropped into the prize chute with a satisfying thunk. How did you do that? Izuku asked, amazed. Physics and probability, Yaoi Rozu said, handing him the figurine. I calculated the optimal angle and pressure point. Also, I may have observed which machines had been played recently. This one was due for a payout based on probability mechanics. You are incredible, Izuku said, clutching the figurine like it was made of gold. Yaoi Rozu's smile was soft and genuine. I am glad I could help. Your enthusiasm for hero memorabilia is quite endearing. Before Izuku could respond to that, Mina's voice cut through the arcade noise. Midoriya, Yamomo, get over here. We are doing a team game. The team game turned out to be a zombie shooter that required coordination and communication. Izuku found himself in a virtual squad with Yaoi Rozu, Mina, and Uraraka, fighting off waves of digital undead. Left side, Mina screamed, firing wildly. I have got right, Uraraka called out, her aim surprisingly good. Conserve ammo, Yaoi Rozu advised. There is a large wave coming. We need to be strategic. Izuku focused on headshots, his analytical mind tracking enemy patterns and optimal firing positions. They made it to wave 15 before being overwhelmed, which according to the high scoreboard was actually quite good. We make a decent team, Yaoi Rozu commented as they exited the game. Our communication was effective. That is because Midoriya kept calling out enemy positions, Uraraka said. It was like having a tactical coordinator. Hero training at work, Izuku said, embarrassed by the praise. They played for another hour, accumulating tickets and competing for increasingly ridiculous prizes. Sayu won a giant stuffed frog that was nearly as big as she was. Mina collected enough tickets for a light-up katana that she immediately used to knight everyone in the group. Uraraka got a collection of small keychains that she distributed to everyone as friendship tokens. As the afternoon wore on, they decided to grab dinner before heading home. There was a restaurant nearby that served okonomiyaki, and the group crowded into a booth, squeezing together and laughing about the day's adventures. Today was so much fun, Uraraka said, her eyes bright with happiness. We should do this every weekend. I am down, Mina agreed. Though next time I want to go shopping. Yamomo needs to help me find a new outfit for the upcoming sports festival. The sports festival is not for another month, Yaoi Rozu pointed out. Which means I have a month to find the perfect victory outfit, Mina countered. Ribbit, I think we should focus on training rather than fashion, Sayu said. The sports festival will be watched by pro heroes all over Japan. It is our chance to make a real impression. We can do both, Mina insisted. Look good, fight good. That is my motto. The food arrived, and they dug in with enthusiasm. The okonomiyaki was perfect, savory and rich, and Izuku found himself in a debate with Yaoi Rozu about optimal topping combinations that made everyone else at the table laugh. You two are perfect for each other, Mina teased. Both total nerds about everything. Izuku felt his face heat up, but before he could stammer out a response, Yaoi Rozu spoke. I consider being called a nerd a compliment. Intelligence and curiosity are valuable traits. See, even when she is being complimented, she sounds like a textbook, Mina laughed. I love it. As they finished eating and prepared to leave, the restaurant's television caught Izuku's attention. A news broadcast was showing footage of a villain attack downtown, heroes responding to the scene. It looked serious, with multiple pro heroes engaged. That is close to here, Sayu observed, her eyes narrowing. Ribbit. Only a few blocks away. We should probably head home, Uraraka said nervously. Avoid the area. They paid and exited the restaurant, but the moment they stepped outside, they knew something was wrong. Smoke rose from the direction of the main shopping district. People were running past them, fear evident on their faces. Everyone stay together, Yaoi Rozu said, her voice calm but authoritative. We need to move away from the danger zone. They started walking quickly in the opposite direction of the smoke, but the crowd was growing thicker, more panicked. Someone slammed into Izuku, nearly knocking him over. Yaoi Rozu caught his arm, steadying him. This way, Mina called, pointing toward a side street that was less congested. They ducked into the alley, and that was when they heard the explosion. Not distant anymore, but close. Too close. The ground shook, and at the end of the alley, a building collapsed partially, debris raining down and blocking their exit. We are trapped, Uraraka said, her voice tight with fear. The other end of the alley, Izuku said, turning. We can go back and find another route. But as they turned, a figure appeared, blocking their path. He was tall and thin, with wild hair and wilder eyes. His hand sparked with electricity, arcs of power dancing between his fingers. Well, the man said, his voice carrying a manic edge. What do we have here? Baby heroes playing dress up. You kids picked a bad day for a field trip. We are just students, Yaoi Rozu said, stepping forward with her hands raised non-threateningly. We do not want any trouble. The man laughed, harsh and grating. Too bad. My boss says we need hostages, and you five look perfect. Nice and young, lots of ransom potential. Your families are going to pay big to get you back. Izuku's mind raced. This was bad. They were first-year students, barely a week into training. They were not ready for a real villain encounter. But they also could not just surrender. Run, he said quietly to the others. I will distract him. Are you insane? Mina hissed. We are not leaving you. The villain's hands crackled with more electricity. You are not leaving at all, he declared, and he thrust his hands forward, sending a bolt of lightning directly at them. Izuku moved on instinct. He ripped off his glasses, locked eyes with the lightning bolt itself, and concentrated. Petrify. Electricity, impossibly, turned to stone mid-flight, becoming a frozen sculpture of captured energy that crashed to the ground harmlessly. What the hell, the villain screamed. What kind of quirk is that? Go, Izuku shouted to his friends. Now. Uraraka touched the debris blocking the other exit, making it weightless. Mina used her acid to melt through what was left, creating an opening. Sayu grabbed Izuku and Yaoi Rozu with her tongue, yanking them toward the exit, even as Izuku tried to protest. The villain sent another blast, but Sayu was too fast, her frog agility letting her dodge easily. They burst out of the alley into chaos. The street was a war zone. Multiple villains were fighting heroes, civilians were running in every direction, and buildings were damaged or on fire. A hero, we need to find a hero, Yaoi Rozu said, looking around frantically. There, Sayu pointed with her tongue. It was Kamui Woods, the tree-like hero, battling two villains at once. His wooden branches extended, trying to capture his opponents, but they were fast and coordinated. The group ran toward Kamui Woods, but before they could reach him, another villain appeared. This one was huge, easily 3 meters tall, with rock-like skin and fists the size of cars. More brats, the giant growled. This is my lucky day. He swung a massive fist at them. Yaoi Rozu instantly created a shield, large and metal, but the force of the blow sent her flying backward. She hit the ground hard, the breath knocked out of her. Yamomo, Mina screamed, running to her side. Uraraka touched the giant villain, trying to make him weightless, but he was too heavy, too solid. Her quirk could not lift something that massive. Sayu tried wrapping him with her tongue, but he simply grabbed it and threw her aside like a ragdoll. She crashed into a wall with a sickening thud. Izuku felt fear and anger surge through him in equal measure. His friends were hurt. These villains were attacking innocent people. Someone had to stop this. He looked at the giant villain, really looked, and he felt his quirk respond to his emotional state. His eyes began to glow, the gray flecks swirling like storm clouds. He poured everything he had into his gaze, all his determination, all his desire to protect his friends. The petrification spread across the villain faster than it ever had before. In seconds, the giant was completely stone, frozen mid-swing. Then, because Izuku had not moderated his power, because he had poured too much into it, the statue began to crack. The giant shattered, exploding into hundreds of pieces of stone that rained down harmlessly around them. Izuku collapsed to his knees, a splitting headache making his vision blur. He had never used that much power before. It felt like his brain was on fire. Deku, Uraraka was at his side, supporting him. That was amazing. You saved us. I killed him, Izuku said, horrified. I actually killed someone. No, Yaoi Rozu said, limping over with Mina's support. Look. She pointed to the pile of stones. Among the rubble, the villain was reforming, his body piecing itself back together like reverse shrapnel. In moments, he was whole again, groaning but alive. His quirk must include some form of regeneration or reconstruction, Yaoi Rozu explained. You did not kill him. You just incapacitated him temporarily. Relief flooded through Izuku, followed quickly by more worry. If the villain could regenerate, their escape window was limited. Kamui Woods appeared above them, his branches extending to create a protective barrier. You kids okay, he called down. That was some impressive quirk work. We need to get to safety, Yaoi Rozu said. There are too many villains. We cannot fight them all. Smart thinking, Kamui Woods approved. Head toward the emergency shelter 3 blocks east. Other heroes are evacuating civilians there. He turned back to his own fight, engaging the villains that were trying to break through his barrier. The group ran, Izuku supported by Uraraka on one side and Mina on the other. Sayu had recovered and was hopping alongside them, and Yaoi Rozu was creating smoke bombs behind them to cover their retreat. They made it 2 blocks before they ran into another problem. A woman with a fire quirk was battling a pro-hero Izuku did not recognize, and their fight had set an entire building ablaze. People were trapped inside, their screams echoing through the broken windows. We have to help them, Uraraka said immediately. We are students, Mina protested. We are not equipped for rescue operations. Ribbit, we are hero students, Sayu countered. This is what heroes do. Yaoi Rozu was already creating fire extinguishers, handing them out. Midoriya, can you create a path? Petrify the flames. Fire is not solid, Izuku said, his mind racing. But if I focus on the burning material itself, the wood and debris, I can stop them from fueling the fire. Do it, Yaoi Rozu commanded. Uraraka, you and I will go in and get people out. Mina, Sayu, keep watch for more villains. The team moved with surprising coordination, considering they had never trained for this scenario. Izuku focused his quirk on the burning sections of the building, turning blazing wood and melting metal into harmless stone. The fire, robbed of its fuel, began to die down. Yaoi Rozu and Uraraka rushed inside. Yaoi Rozu created breathing masks and protective gear on the fly, using her creation quirk with impressive speed and efficiency. Uraraka made people and debris weightless, helping them navigate through the damaged structure. They pulled out 7 people in total. An elderly couple, 2 children, and 3 adults. All were coughing and scared but alive. A medical hero appeared and began treating them immediately, praising the students for their quick thinking and bravery. But there was no time to celebrate. The villain attack was escalating. More villains appeared, coordinated and organized in a way that street criminals usually were not. This was planned, Izuku realized. This was not random chaos. This was a deliberate assault. We need to get to that shelter, Yaoi Rozu said, her voice strained. She had overused her quirk, creating too many items too quickly. Fat cells were visible on her arms, the cost of her power. 1 more block, Sayu said. We can make it. They ran, but fate had other plans. A villain with a speed quirk intercepted them, moving so fast he was nearly a blur. He grabbed Uraraka, using her as a shield against any potential attacks. Pretty little thing, the speedster said, his voice oily and wrong. The boss is going to love you. All of you, actually. Young heroes in training. That is a valuable commodity. Let her go, Izuku said, his voice low and dangerous. His quirk was burning inside him, demanding to be used despite his exhaustion. Or what, the villain taunted. You will give me the stone treatment like your friend back there? Go ahead and try. I am too fast for you to even look at. He was probably right. But Izuku did not need to look directly at him. He looked at the ground beneath the villain's feet, at the concrete he was standing on. Petrify. The concrete turned to brittle stone, and then, with a thought, Izuku reversed the petrification unevenly, causing the ground to crack and collapse. The speedster lost his balance, releasing Uraraka as he tried to regain his footing. That split second was all Mina needed. She doused him with acid, not enough to seriously harm, but enough to hurt and distract. Sayu's tongue wrapped around him, and she slammed him into a wall with enough force to knock him unconscious. Nice teamwork, Enuvoi said. They all turned to see Eraserhead, their homeroom teacher, dropping down from a nearby building. His capture scarf moved like a living thing, restraining 2 more villains with casual efficiency. Aizawa, Yaoi Rozu said, relief evident in her voice. You 5 should not be here, Aizawa said, his voice stern but not angry. This is a coordinated villain attack. Multiple groups hitting different parts of the city simultaneously. We were just at the museum, Izuku explained quickly. We got caught in the chaos. I can see that, Aizawa said, looking at the unconscious villain at their feet and the petrified sections of nearby buildings. You all did well, especially for first-year students. But now you need to get to safety while the pros handle this. He pointed them toward the emergency shelter, which they could now see in the distance. Police and heroes were guiding people inside a reinforced building designed to withstand villain attacks. The group made their way there, exhaustion finally catching up with them. Inside the shelter, they found hundreds of civilians, all scared but safe. Medical personnel were treating injuries, and pro-heroes were coordinating the response. Izuku sat against a wall, his head still pounding from quirk overuse. Yayoi Rozu sat beside him, equally exhausted. Mina, Uraraka, and Sai were getting checked by a medical hero, minor injuries being treated. "We could have died today," Izuku said quietly. "But we did not," Yayoi Rozu replied. "We worked together, used our quirks effectively, and saved people. That is what heroes do. We are just students. Today we were more than that." Izuku looked at her, at this incredible girl who had stayed calm under pressure, who had led them through chaos, who had created life-saving equipment on the fly. "You were amazing today," he said. "A real hero." Yayoi Rozu's smile was tired but genuine. "So were you, Midoriya. Your quirk saved us multiple times. You should be proud." Across the shelter, Mina was recounting their adventure to Uraraka and Sai with animated gestures, probably exaggerating the danger for dramatic effect. Despite everything, despite the fear and the pain and the close calls, she was smiling. They all were, in their own way. Because they had survived. More than that, they had made a difference. They had saved people. They had been heroes, even if just for a day. The attack continued outside for another 2 hours before the pro-heroes finally contained all the villains. News broadcasts played on screens throughout the shelter, showing the aftermath. 23 villains apprehended, estimated 50 civilians injured but no fatalities reported. It could have been much worse. When they were finally cleared to leave, it was night. The city lights seemed dimmer somehow, the usual vibrancy replaced with exhaustion. Parents arrived to pick up their children, heroes escorted groups of people to transit stations, and slowly, the shelter emptied. Izuku's mother arrived looking frantic, pulling him into a crushing hug the moment she saw him. She did not let go for a full minute, and when she finally did, there were tears streaming down her face. "I saw the news," she said, her voice shaking. "I was so scared. Promise me you will be more careful. Promise me." "I promise, Mom," Izuku said, hugging her back just as tightly. The other parents arrived in turn. Aoi Rozu's family sent a car with security personnel, who whisked her away after she exchanged contact information with everyone and made them promise to text when they got home safely. Mina's parents were a chaotic bundle of worry and relief, checking her over a dozen times while she insisted she was fine. Sai's father was calm and steady, much like his daughter, thanking the heroes who had kept her safe. Uraraka's parents arrived together, her mother crying and her father looking grim but proud. On the train ride home, sitting next to his exhausted mother, Izuku thought about the day. It had started so perfectly, full of laughter and friendship and possibility. Then it had turned into a nightmare, a reminder that hero society was built on constant danger, that villains were real and deadly and could strike at any time. But it had also shown him something important. When it mattered, when lives were on the line, he and his friends had not hesitated. They had worked together, trusted each other, protected each other. They had been a team in the truest sense. His phone buzzed with messages. The group chat was blowing up, everyone checking on everyone else, sharing their experiences, processing the trauma together. Even Kirishima had heard about the attack and was asking if they were okay, disappointed he had missed the action, but relieved they were safe. Aoi Rozu sent him a private message. "Thank you for today. Your quick thinking and bravery saved lives. I am honored to call you my friend." Izuku typed back. "You were the real hero today. Your leadership kept us together. Thank you." At home, Izuku collapsed into bed, too tired to even change out of his clothes properly. His body ached, his head still throbbed, and his quirk felt drained in a way he had never experienced before. But as he drifted off to sleep, his last thought was not of fear or pain. It was of his friends, of their courage and determination, of the unbreakable bonds they were forming. They were going to be heroes together. Real heroes. The kind that saved people and inspired hope. And nothing, not villains or danger or fear, was going to stop them. The weekend had not gone as planned. But in its own way, it had been perfect. A trial by fire that had forged them into something stronger. Tomorrow they would return to school. Tomorrow they would train harder. Tomorrow they would take the lessons learned today and become better. But tonight, Izuku Midoriya simply slept, his dreams filled with stone and lightning, with friends and battles, with the future he was building one day at a time. The Stone Gaze hero's journey had truly begun. And the world had no idea what was coming. Sunday arrived with rain, as if the sky itself was mourning the previous day's violence. Izuku woke up late, his body protesting every movement. Quirk exhaustion, the doctors had called it when his mother had insisted on taking him to the hospital the night before. He had pushed his petrification ability beyond its limits, and now he was paying the price. His phone screen showed 47 unread messages. Most were from the group chat, but there were also individual messages from his classmates checking in. Even Iida, who had not been there, had sent a formal but concerned message asking about everyone's well-being. Izuku scrolled through the messages slowly. Mina had sent a series of increasingly worried texts before finally getting confirmation everyone was okay. Kirishima had declared the whole situation unmanly and promised to train harder so he could protect his friends next time. Aoi Rozu had sent detailed messages to each person individually, checking on their physical and mental state with the thoroughness of a medical professional. His mother knocked on his door, entering with a tray of food. "You need to eat," she said softly. "Recovery from quirk exhaustion requires calories and rest." "Thanks, Mom," Izuku said, accepting the tray. The food smelled amazing, rice and miso soup and grilled fish, comfort food that reminded him of childhood. Inko sat on the edge of his bed, her expression troubled. "I have been thinking about yesterday. About what could have happened. Maybe UA is too dangerous. Maybe you should transfer to a normal school where you would be safe." Izuku looked at his mother, seeing the genuine fear in her eyes. "Mom, I love you. But I cannot do that. Being a hero is dangerous. It always will be. But yesterday proved something important to me. When it mattered, when people needed help, I did not freeze. I acted. I saved people. That is what heroes do." Inko's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. "I know. I just worry. You are my baby boy and the thought of losing you terrifies me." "You are not going to lose me," Izuku promised, taking her hand. "I am going to be careful. I am going to train hard. And I am going to become a hero you can be proud of." "I am already proud of you," Inko said, pulling him into a gentle hug. "More proud than you could ever know." After his mother left, Izuku opened his laptop and searched for news about the attack. The media was calling it the Musatafu Coordinated Strike, a villain operation that had targeted multiple districts simultaneously. 23 villains arrested, but intelligence suggested there were more who had escaped. The villain organization behind it was unknown, but authorities suspected it was connected to a larger criminal network. Several pro-heroes had given interviews. Hamui Woods praised the unnamed students who had helped with rescue operations. Eraser had declined to comment, which was typical for him. All Might made a statement about the resilience of hero society and the importance of remaining vigilant. Izuku's phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Yaoi Rozu. "Are you available for a video call? I wanted to check on everyone together." He responded affirmatively, and within minutes, a group video call started. Aoi Rozu appeared first, looking tired but composed. Then Mina joined, her usual energy subdued. Uraraka came next, waving at the camera with forced cheerfulness. Sai was last, her expression as calm as ever, but with a hint of something deeper in her eyes. "How is everyone feeling?" Yaoi Rozu asked, her voice gentle. "Sore," Mina admitted. "My arms hurt from all the acid I used yesterday. I am not used to extended combat like that." "Ribbit, I pulled a muscle in my tongue," Sai said. "My father made me rest all day yesterday. He was not happy about me being in danger. My parents were the same," Uraraka added. "My mom would not stop crying, and my dad looked like he wanted to wrap me in bubble wrap forever. My family was concerned as well," Yaoi Rozu said diplomatically, which Izuku suspected was an understatement given how wealthy and influential her family was. "But I explained that this is part of hero training. Danger is inherent to the profession we have chosen." "That is what I told my mom," Izuku said. "She wants me to transfer to a normal school, but I cannot do that. Not after yesterday. We saved people. That means something." "You are right," Mina said, some of her usual fire returning to her voice. "We were actual heroes yesterday. First-year students and we took down villains and saved lives. That is incredible. We also got lucky," Sayu pointed out with her characteristic bluntness. "Ribbit. If Izawa sensei had not shown up when he did, things could have gone very differently. We are not ready for that level of combat yet. Which is why we need to train harder," Yaoi Rozu declared. "The sports festival is coming up in a few weeks. That is our chance to show what we can do, to catch the attention of pro heroes who might take us as interns. Real training with real heroes will make us stronger." The sports festival, Izuku mused. He had almost forgotten about it with everything happening. It was UA's biggest event, televised nationally, where students competed in various challenges to showcase their abilities. Pro heroes scouted talent there, offering internships to promising students. "We should train together," Uraraka suggested. "Like, outside of class. Extra practice to prepare." "I am in," Mina said immediately. "Training montage time. We are going to be unstoppable." "Ribbit, that is a good idea," Sayu agreed. "We work well together. Yesterday proved that." They spent the next hour planning training sessions, discussing what they needed to work on individually and as a group. Izuku needed to build stamina for his quirk and learn better combat techniques. Yaoi Rozu needed to work on quick creation under pressure. Mina wanted to increase her acid output and control. Uraraka needed to extend her weight limit and duration. Sayu wanted to improve her already impressive combat skills. By the time the call ended, Izuku felt energized despite his exhaustion. They had a plan. They had motivation. They had each other. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Izuku's body still ached, but he forced himself out of bed and into his uniform. His mother fussed over him during breakfast, making him promise 3 more times to be careful before finally letting him leave for school. The train to UA was packed with students, and Izuku noticed several giving him curious looks. Had word spread about the attack? Did people know students had been involved? His questions were answered when he arrived at school. A small crowd had gathered around the main building, reporters with cameras and microphones trying to get past security. UA students caught in villain attack, one reporter was saying into a camera. Questions arise about student safety and the school's responsibility. Great, Izuku thought. Media circus. Just what they needed. He managed to slip past the reporters by going through a side entrance that Mina had shown him last week. The hallways were buzzing with conversation, everyone talking about the attack. Apparently, several students from other classes had also been in the area, though none had been as directly involved as Izuku's group. Class 1 was already mostly full when Izuku arrived. Conversations died as he entered, everyone turning to look at him. Then Kirishima was across the room in seconds, grabbing Izuku's shoulders. "Dude, are you okay? I heard you guys fought actual villains. That is so manly but also terrifying. Tell me everything." Before Izuku could respond, more classmates crowded around. Kaminari wanted to know if he had used his quirk to turn villains to stone. Jiro asked if anyone had been seriously hurt. Even the usually quiet Tokoyami expressed interest in hearing about the experience. "Alright, everyone back to your seats," Iida's voice cut through the chaos. He stood at the front of the room, his hand chopping through the air in his characteristic manner. "I understand curiosity, but we should allow our classmates to process their traumatic experience without overwhelming them with questions." "Thank you, Iida," Yaoi Rozu said as she entered the classroom. She looked perfectly put together as always, but Izuku noticed the slight shadows under her eyes that makeup could not quite hide. Mina, Uraraka, and Tsuyu arrived together, and the class's attention shifted to them. More questions, more exclamations, more concern. It was overwhelming and touching at the same time. Aizawa entered in his sleeping bag, somehow managing to look even more exhausted than usual. He unzipped himself, stood up, and fixed the class with a serious stare. "I am aware that 5 of your classmates were involved in the Musatafu attack. They have been cleared by medical professionals and counselors. What they experienced was traumatic and real. If anyone needs additional support, my door is open. Now, everyone sit down so we can begin class." The day proceeded with surprising normalcy given the circumstances. Present mixed English class was as loud and enthusiastic as ever. Cementus taught them about structural integrity and how to avoid collateral damage during fights. 13 gave a lesson on rescue techniques that felt eerily relevant after Saturday's events. During lunch, Izuku found himself at their usual table with an expanded group. Kirishima had permanently attached himself to their friend circle, along with Kaminari, who kept trying to impress Mina with terrible jokes. Giru sat with them too, quiet but observant, occasionally adding dry commentary that made everyone laugh. "So," Kaminari said, leaning forward conspiratorially. "What was it like? Fighting real villains?" "Terrifying," Uraraka said honestly. "I thought we were going to die at least 3 times. But we did not," Mina added. "Because we worked together and because Midoriya is secretly overpowered." "I am not overpowered," Izuku protested. "My quirk is just versatile." "Dude, you turned lightning into stone," Kaminari said, his eyes wide. "That is the coolest thing I have ever heard. Can you petrify electricity? That should not even be possible." "I am not sure how it works," Izuku admitted. "I just reacted and my quirk responded. Maybe it is less about the physical state of matter and more about my perception and intent." "Fascinating," Yaoi Rozu said, pulling out a notebook. "We should conduct experiments to determine the exact parameters of your ability. Understanding the limits and applications could be invaluable for hero work." "You two and your science talk," Mina laughed. "Never change, you nerds." "What about you, Jiro?" Kirishima asked. "What is your quirk?" "I have seen the jacks in your ears, but I am not sure what they do." "Earphone jack," Jiro explained, tapping one of the audio jacks hanging from her earlobes. "I can channel sound waves through them, create sonic attacks or plug into things to hear through them. It is nothing special compared to some quirks here." "Are you kidding?" Mina said. "Sound-based quirks are super cool. You could do spy work, or sonic booms, or maybe even a echolocation like a bat." Jiro blinked, clearly not used to such enthusiasm about her abilities. "I never thought about a echolocation. That could actually be useful." The group spent lunch brainstorming ways Jiro could develop her quirk, which led to brainstorming sessions for everyone's abilities. It was productive and fun, the kind of collaboration that made UA special. After lunch, Aizawa called Izuku, Yaoi Rozu, Mina, Uraraka, and Tsuyu to his office. The room was small and cramped, filled with papers and what looked like several sleeping bags in various states of use. "Sit," Aizawa commanded, gesturing to chairs that materialized from the chaos. His expression was serious. "I have been asked to conduct a formal debrief about the incident." This is standard procedure when students are involved in villain encounters. I need each of you to walk me through what happened, step by step. They took turns recounting the events, filling in details and correcting each other's timelines. Aizawa took notes, occasionally asking pointed questions about their decision-making process. When they finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You all performed admirably," he finally said. "Your quick thinking saved lives. However, you also took unnecessary risks. Engaging villains when you could have retreated was dangerous. People were trapped in that burning building," Uraraka said quietly. "We could not just leave them." "I know," Aizawa replied. "And that instinct, that drive to save people regardless of personal risk, is what makes someone a hero. But it is also what gets heroes killed. You need to learn to balance compassion with caution." He pulled out 5 folders, handing one to each of them. "These are psychological evaluation forms. I need you to fill them out honestly. PTSD is common after traumatic events. There is no shame in needing help." "We understand," Yayoi Rozu said, accepting her folder with grace. "One more thing," Aizawa added. "The media knows students were involved, but not which ones. I am recommending we keep it that way. The attention would be disruptive to your training and potentially dangerous if villain organizations decide to target you specifically." They all agreed readily. The last thing any of them wanted was reporters following them around. As they left Aizawa's office, Yayoi Rozu turned to the group. "We should still train together as planned. If anything, this experience has shown us how much we still need to learn." "When and where?" Mina asked. "Tomorrow after school," Yayoi Rozu decided. "Training ground gamma is usually available in the evenings. We can work on combat coordination and individual skill development." The next day found them in Training Ground Gamma, a massive industrial complex filled with pipes, platforms, and obstacles designed to simulate urban environments. They had permission to use the space for 2 hours. Yayoi Rozu had prepared a training regimen that was both comprehensive and brutal. They started with warm-ups, then moved into quirk-specific drills. Izuku practiced rapid petrification and restoration, trying to reduce the time it took to reverse his power. Mina worked on acid control, creating shapes and patterns instead of just blasting. Uraraka trained her stamina, making increasingly heavy objects float for longer periods. Tsuyu practiced her camouflage and worked on her already impressive tongue control. Then came the sparring. They paired off in different combinations, testing strategies and communication. Izuku found himself facing Mina first, and it was immediately clear that close combat was not his strength. Mina was fast and aggressive, her acid forcing him to constantly dodge and retreat. "You are thinking too much," Mina said after landing a hit that would have been devastating if they were not pulling their punches. "Stop analyzing and just react." "Easier said than done," Izuku panted, wiping sweat from his forehead. They went again, and this time Izuku tried to quiet his analytical mind, letting instinct guide him. It helped, marginally. He managed to petrify the ground beneath Mina's feet, throwing off her balance long enough to create distance. "Better," Mina approved. "You used your quirk creatively. Keep doing that." Next, he sparred with Uraraka. Her zero gravity was tricky to deal with, constantly threatening to send him floating helplessly. But Izuku discovered that if he petrified his boots, increasing their weight significantly, her quirk had trouble affecting him. "That is genius," Uraraka said, floating above him with her hands pressed together. "You just made yourself too heavy for me to lift. I need to get stronger. Or find a different approach," Yayoi Rozu called from where she was observing. "You could make the environment weightless instead of your opponent. Floating debris can be just as effective as floating enemies." Uraraka's eyes lit up with understanding, and in their next round, she implemented the strategy. Suddenly Izuku was dodging floating pipes and platforms, the environment itself becoming a weapon. When it was time to spar with Yayoi Rozu, Izuku was already exhausted. But Yayoi Rozu was relentless, creating shields and staffs and nets with practiced ease. She had clearly been training extensively with her creation quirk. "Your reaction time is good," she noted as Izuku barely dodged a staff swing. "But you are hesitant to use your full power against me. Why?" "I do not want to hurt you," Izuku admitted. Yayoi Rozu lowered her staff, her expression serious. "Midoriya, if we are going to be heroes, we need to trust each other to handle what we dish out. I can create protective equipment. I can handle your petrification. Do not hold back." So he did not. Their next exchange was intense, Izuku petrifying her weapons as she created them, Yayoi Rozu adapting faster than he could counter. She created a net that he turned to stone, then immediately created another from a different angle while he was distracted. She was thinking 3 moves ahead, and it was humbling. "You are incredible," Izuku said when she finally tagged him with a quarterstaff. "Your tactical mind is amazing." Yayoi Rozu smiled, slightly out of breath. "You are quite formidable yourself. Your quirk has so many applications. I think you have barely scratched the surface of what you can do." The final sparring session was all 5 of them working together against training dummies that Yayoi Rozu created. They moved as a unit, calling out positions and coordinating attacks. Izuku petrified obstacles, creating cover. Mina melted through barriers. Uraraka made debris float for Tsuyu to use as projectiles. Yayoi Rozu created whatever tools they needed in the moment. It was exhausting and exhilarating. By the end of the 2 hours, they were all collapsed on the ground, panting and laughing and feeling accomplished. "We are getting good at this," Mina said, staring up at the artificial sky of the training ground. "Ribbit, we still have a long way to go," Tsuyu countered. "But yes, we are improving. The sports festival is going to be intense," Uraraka noted. "Everyone in our class is amazing. We are going to be competing against some seriously powerful quirks. Then we will just have to be better," Yayoi Rozu declared. "We have teamwork on our side. That counts for something." Over the next 2 weeks, they trained every day after school. Sometimes just the 5 of them, other times with Kirishima and Kaminari joining in. Occasionally other classmates would show up, and the training sessions would evolve into massive collaborative efforts. Izuku felt himself improving rapidly. His stamina increased, his control refined, his combat instinct sharpened. He could now petrify and restore objects in rapid succession, could target specific parts of structures while leaving the rest intact, could even partially petrify opponents to slow them down without fully immobilizing them. But it was not just physical training. The group studied together too, gathering in the library or at local cafes to work on homework and hero theory. Yayoi Rozu was an excellent tutor, patient and thorough. Mina made everything fun, turning study sessions into games and competitions. Uraraka kept everyone motivated with her infectious optimism. Tsuyu asked the kind of questions that made everyone think deeper. And Izuku found himself at the center of it all, his analytical mind helping everyone improve their strategies and applications. He felt valued, appreciated, part of something bigger than himself. One evening, after a particularly intense training session, the group decided to grab dinner together. They found a barbecue restaurant and crowded into a large booth, ordering far too much food and laughing at Kaminari's increasingly desperate attempts to impress Mina. "Hey Midoriya," Kirishima said, leaning across the table. "I have been meaning to ask. What made you want to be a hero? Like, what is your origin story?" Izuku hesitated, unused to talking about himself. "I was quirkless for most of my life. Everyone told me I could not be a hero without a quirk. But I never stopped believing it was possible. When my quirk finally manifested, it felt like fate giving me a second chance. I want to use this power to save people, to make a difference." "That is beautiful," Uraraka said, her eyes a bit misty. "You never gave up on your dream. That is really inspiring." "What about you guys?" Izuku deflected, uncomfortable with the attention. "Why do you want to be heroes?" They went around the table sharing their stories. Kirishima wanted to be a hero like his idol Crimson Riot, who saved him when he was young. Mina wanted to use her quirk to help people and look cool doing it. Uraraka wanted to make money to help her parents, who had struggled financially her whole life. Tsuyu wanted to protect her younger siblings and anyone else who needed help. Yayoi Rozu wanted to use her privileged position and powerful quirk to serve society. Each story was different, but they all shared the same core drive. The desire to help, to save, to make the world better. "We are all pretty idealistic," Kaminari noted. "Most people just want to be heroes for fame or money. We actually care. That is kind of rare. That is what makes you special," Yayoi Rozu said. "They do not just accept students with powerful quirks. They look for people with heroic hearts." The conversation drifted to lighter topics, favorite heroes and embarrassing childhood stories and debates about the best hero costume designs. Izuku found himself smiling more than he had in years, genuinely happy and relaxed. At one point, Mina leaned over to whisper to Yayoi Rozu, loud enough that Izuku could hear. "He is smiling so much. It is adorable. I love seeing him like this." Yayoi Rozu glanced at Izuku, her expression soft. "He deserves happiness. He works so hard and doubts himself so much. It is good to see him confident." Izuku pretended he had not heard, but warmth spread through his chest. These people cared about him. They saw him, really saw him, and they liked what they saw. The meal ended with everyone fighting over who would pay the bill. Eventually they agreed to split it evenly, though Yayoi Rozu tried to insist she could cover everyone. They walked to the station together, the evening air cool and comfortable. "Same time tomorrow?" Mina asked as they prepared to split up to different train lines. "Same time," everyone agreed. As Izuku rode the train home, he thought about how much his life had changed in just a few weeks. He had gone from a lonely quirkless kid to a UA student with amazing friends and a powerful quirk. It felt surreal, like he might wake up and discover it was all a dream. But it was real. The ache in his muscles from training was real. The messages filling up his phone were real. The friendships he was building were real. At home, his mother noticed the change in him immediately. "You seem happy," she commented over dinner. "Really happy." "I am," Izuku admitted. "I have good friends, Mom. Really good friends. They make me want to be better. I am so glad, Inko said, her eyes tearing up as they so often did. My baby is finally happy. That is all I have ever wanted for you. That night, Izuku lay in bed reviewing the day's training in his mind. There were things he could improve, techniques he wanted to try, strategies he wanted to test. But underlying it all was a sense of contentment he had never experienced before. His phone buzzed with a message. It was from Yaoi Rozu. Thank you for today. Training with you is always enlightening. I find myself looking forward to our sessions more than I probably should admit. You bring out the best in all of us, Midoriya. Izuku read the message 3 times, his heart doing something complicated in his chest. He typed and deleted several responses before settling on something simple. Training with you is the highlight of my day. You inspire me to work harder. Thank you for being such an amazing friend. He sent it before he could overthink it. Her response came quickly. Friend. Yes. Of course. Sleep well, Midoriya. Izuku stared at that message for a long time, trying to decipher its meaning. Was there disappointment in that response? Or was he reading too much into it? He shook his head, setting his phone aside. He was overthinking things as always. Yaoi Rozu was his friend. A good friend. A really good friend who was brilliant and beautiful and kind and, okay, maybe he needed to stop thinking about this before his brain exploded. The sports festival was in 2 weeks. He needed to focus on that. Everything else could wait. But as he drifted off to sleep, his last thoughts were not of the festival or training or villains. They were of a girl with dark hair and intelligent eyes who looked at him like he was someone worth knowing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow he would train harder, study more, push himself further. But tonight, Izuku Midoriya allowed himself to dream of possibility. Thanks for watching my video and have a lovely day. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.